This is Dr. Gurudat. Thank you very much for attending this short educative webinar. And Dr. Ish has given a lot of inputs about what diabetes and what is the today's situation of COVID and what is the sense of understanding from Ayurvedic perspective about diabetes. So that's a wonderful introduction. I'd like to share a few inputs or concepts according to yoga, what we are all about, what about diabetes, and how about how do we deal with diabetes through yoga perspective, yoga therapy. Before we do that, I need to share some important information about what a human being is all about according to yoga. In Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a concept called Panchakosha concept. In this Panchakosha concept, the human being is considered as 5 different beings. Uh, as the picture indicates in front of you, we can see the different koshas or layers, that is starting from Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya. As the name itself indicates, Annamaya Kosha is nothing but which is formed because of the food. Anna means the food, which nourishes us. We were single-celled organism when we were conceived in our mother's womb. But in course of time, with the nutrition, we grew up to 1 trillion cells or more than that, a big human being. So that was all possible only through the nourishment of the food. So that's why the physical body is considered, which is anatomically and physiologically perceivable. And also it is visible. It is very gross to see and feel it. So that's why it is called Annamaya Kosha. Next layer is little more subtler than the Annamaya Kosha, that is Pranamaya Kosha. Pranamaya Kosha, even though it is not visible to our naked eyes, but it is quite feelable. We can feel the breath, we can feel the energy many times. We may not be aware of it, but we can feel energy as well. And today, energy medicine is taking such a big quantum step ahead that everything is nothing but energy. So, Pranamaya Kosha is to do with energy body, which is subtle but has a control over Annamaya Kosha as well, the physical body. The next layer is Manomaya Kosha. Manomaya Kosha is nothing but our emotions, our mind. Those are the things which deal with Manomaya Kosha. I would like to bring in a concept here that according to yoga therapy, most of the non-communicable chronic conditions of today's world is starting from Manomaya Kosha. Because any kinds of ups and downs in our emotions can lead to disturbances in Pranamaya Kosha in terms of energies. And those energies, when they're disturbed for a long period of time, that can percolate to our physical body to cause physical manifestations. That's what yoga understands. And yogic tools also addresses all these 3, including Annamaya Kosha through asanas and physical postures, Pranamaya Kosha through pranayamas, and for Manomaya Kosha, we use Yoga Nidra and also relaxation techniques, meditation to bring a balance there. So when the next layer is little more subtler than Manomaya Kosha, even though many times our Manomaya Kosha overrules or rules our Vijnanamaya Kosha, that is our wisdom. For example, as Dr. Ish mentioned, a diabetic is supposed to follow a strict regimen. He should understand to live with diabetes to prevent the complications. But we know that some of the mistakes, like we may not exercise, we may not eat the right food and all that kind of stuff. Our mind wants to have those foods, but our wisdom tells that don't have it. But still we overpower it and we succumb to our sensual attractions. So Vijnanamaya Kosha always guides us in the right direction. The last layer, which is the subtle most, is Anandamaya Kosha. When all the previous 4 layers are in pretty much balance, we lead to what is the state called as complete bliss or happiness, which is Anandamaya Kosha. When we are in that state, our physical body, the mind, the energy body is all in complete balance, and it is an experience which happens. We cannot make Anandamaya Kosha through some practice. It has to be attained through the practices, through the previous layers. That is the basic concept of Panchakoshas in terms of yoga. Now, let us understand what are few uh, in, important asanas which could be of great help in terms of diabetes and also to improve the immunity when we do pranayamas. I'll come to that point as well. The first most important thing in terms of Annamaya Kosha is a warm up. Always, I would recommend if somebody has been always doing any kind of physical postures or physical exercise on a regular basis, they can start off with yoga with a yoga therapist or a yoga doctor with the right guidance and their own diabetologist as well. We don't get into postures in yoga before doing any warm up. So we do what is called a Sukshma Vyayama or Surya Namaskars, which will warm up your body so that when you do any postures, if your body is too stiff and you do a posture which you're not used to, you may end up in injuries. To prevent that, we do the warm up sessions. One of them is Surya Namaskars, which is very well known and all of you might be knowing about it. So I'll not go into that. Let me demonstrate few asanas as mentioned in the chart, in the slide there. Pavan Muktasana, Paschimottanasana, and Ustrasana. Please have a look. But I would also like to tell that before we start yoga, we always need to make sure that we spend about at least 5 to 8 minutes of meditation, basic meditation, because when we start a yoga session, it is important that we integrate our body, breath, and mind in our practice. For example, when I'm doing my asana postures or asanas, the perspective of Annamaya Kosha may be about 70%. Our breath is also equally important. So we focus on our breath about 15%, and our mind is also integrated. In the sense, I am focusing on how my breath is happening, which portion of my body is getting stretched or compressed. So that is where I focus. It has been understood that if you direct your mind to a particular portion of the body, it has a lot of healing aspects which happen in that particular part of the body. There are scientific studies today to understand that, and it has been happening. Many neurologists do agree about that aspect as well, including Dr. Deepak Chopra. So let me demonstrate the first one, the Pavan Muktasana. Please have a look into it. We lie down on the floor for Pavan Muktasana, very comfortably, this way. We keep both the arms next to the body, our legs together. I always recommend that you please keep your eyes closed during the practice of yoga, so that there is an integration of body, breath, and mind very well. So we start with this way. I breathe out completely before I start. Now breathing in, I gently rise my right leg up to 60 degrees. Breathing out, I bind at the knee and catch my knee and lock it up. Now I'm pretty relaxed. Now I take a deep breath here. And breathing out. I try to get my forehead to the knee as near as possible. Breathing in, I release my head and neck, but I hold my hands on the knee to repeat it once more. Again, I take a deep breath in, breathing out. I try to get my forehead to the knee, feel the pressure in my abdomen, feel my neck, feel my upper back, feel the stretch. Breathing in, release your head and neck, and breathe out. Now release your arms and straighten your leg, breathing in, lock your knee, and breathing out, very slowly bring your leg to the floor and relax. So that is Pavana Muktasana. Pavan Muktasana is very much indicated for several digestive disorders, including our diabetes also, which is related to metabolism, and also metabolism and this way digestion becomes a very important part of it. And as Dr. Ish mentioned, stress is an important factor in the pathogenesis of diabetes. Yoga is a great tool to manage the stress. When I'm doing Pavan Muktasana, it also helps us to make sure that the blood flow to the abdominal organs, the visceral organs, and massaging effect which is there could kind of help to make sure that our insulin resistance is less, and sometimes even help our pancreas to function better. That's the reason it is very much recommended in terms of diabetes. The next one is Paschimottanasana. Just have a look about that. This is a sitting posture, unlike the Pavan Muktasana, which is lying down posture. We sit in a very comfortable way. I would like to show you this way as well. Just make sure that your legs are together, your back is erect, your arms are next to the body. You're pretty relaxed, your eyes are closed. And whenever any asana you're doing, make sure that your breathing is very settled. It is not heightened breathing. Your heart rate is not racing. It is very relaxed and you're completely focused. Now let us begin for Paschimottanasana. Breathing in, we gently raise both the arms and bring our arms next to the ears. And breathing out, we bend forward. As much as possible. Let me demonstrate in the side view so that you will understand it even better. We are breathing in. Bring your arms next to the ears. And breathing out. Breathing in, you rise up. Breathing out, bring your arms down. I'd like to make a few points here that when you're bending forward, it depends on each one's flexibility and ability. Don't kind of copy somebody else, try to compete with somebody else. Do according to your own flexibility. And those who have any back issues, be very careful, consult your doctor before you do that. And also, make sure you don't bend your knee. Even though the goal of the asana is to touch your forehead to the thighs, but even if you don't touch, it's all right. But don't bend your knees. That's very, very important. As I explained for Pavan Muktasana, the same kind of effect is applicable for Paschimottanasana. I want to do one more, that is Ustrasana, which is a backward bend. We did mostly Pavan Muktasana and Paschimottanasana, a forward bend. So now let us try one backward bend. Ustra means camel. Like a camel, we are trying to do Ustrasana. Please have a look. Here, I'm trying to stand on my knees. I hope it is quite visible and audible. Is it quite audible? Right. See, I'm standing on my knees just like this with a distance of about one arm, one forearm between my knees. Someone is having a question?
No, there's no question. It's you're audible. Please go ahead.
All right, sure.
We'll take the questions in the end. There are questions, but we'll take it in the end.
Sure, all right. So we stand on our knees and our toes are pointed out. Just let me show that. That's equally important when we do the posture. This way. If you need to put a pillow under your ankles, it's absolutely fine for support. Here, because I've been practicing yoga for a long time, it looks very easy for me to do, but I'll show two variations so that you don't cause any injury, but everybody can try this. The first variation is Getting into the posture, we put our arms on the waist like this, with the proper support of my thumb facing each other this way. Now, I take a deep breath in, breathing out. Breathing in, come up. Make sure you don't lose your balance here. So you bend only whatever extent you can. You feel a stretch in your abdomen, pressure in your lower back. To a complete Ustrasana, for complete Ustrasana, please have a look. We take a deep breath again. Breathing out. I bend completely back and try to put my palms on the heels and loosen my neck and feel the complete spine, which is compressed. Feel the stretch in my abdomen, and my breathing is very comfortable. I slowly come up, breathing in, and end it up by giving a forward stretch. In Shashankasana. A small point to be noted. Initially, anybody starting with yoga, they may find it a little difficult to do these postures. But when you have a consistent practice and regular practice, it becomes effortless. That is the definition of an asana as well. Stiram Sukham Asanam. For example, if I'm able to stand on my toes without any difficulty, stiram, stability, sukham, very comfortable, that itself is an asana. Even if I'm sitting comfortably without any effort, that is an asana. The whole practice of yoga asanas is to reach that state. That's the reason why we need so much of practice and consistent practice. So that was about a small demo about asanas. Amitaji, can we go to the next slide? Yeah, I'd like to go for the next demo about pranayama. Pranayama is concerned with Pranamaya Kosha, as you know, and in Ashtanga Yoga, it is the fourth step of Ashtanga Yoga. Pranayama, as the name itself indicates, prana is energy or breath, yama is regulation. Means to balance our breath is the idea behind pranayama. You can actually call it as energy rather than prana. Prana is not the exact translation of energy. Breath is not the exact translation of energy. Prana is energy. Breath is a language which we can understand. So first one, there are several pranayamas. The first one we generally focus upon is Kapalabhati. Kapalabhati is actually a bridge between asanas and pranayamas because there is a breath aspect and a physical aspect as well. But in pranayamas, mostly it is all breathing oriented and very less with the physical aspect. As I mentioned earlier, in pranayama, 70% is breath, 15% is body, 15% is mind. So that's the reason Kapalabhati is a bridge between asanas and pranayamas. Let me have a look, demo about Kapalabhati. Just have a look. As the name, I want to explain what is Kapalabhati. Kapala means our head. Bhati means to shine, to give a kind of, energy or expander energy, a glow to our system through the practice of Kapalabhati. That is what is all about Kapalabhati. And it is important for diabetes because one of the reasons of diabetes is also obesity and lethargy. Kapalabhati can be a great tool to overcome that lethargy. That's the reason it is important for us to understand this. In breathing, in a normal regular breathing, our inhalation is actually not passive. It is an active process. But our breathing out, exhalation, is a passive process. Means no energy is spent. But in Kapalabhati, we are going to reverse that. Forced exhalation and passive inhalation. Please make sure that you learn from a qualified and registered yoga therapist or yoga doctor with Kapalabhati, and also check with your doctor before you do it so that if you have any heart conditions, you're not supposed to do this. So let me have a demo of that. We sit in a very comfortable posture, keeping our back erect. Our eyes are closed. Before starting, we breathe out completely. Now I take a deep breath in and breathing out, start the Kapalbhati. You need to make a note what all happened in Kapalbhati. I was pressing my abdomen inwards with a push, physical push. That pushes my diaphragm. And also I try to exhale forcefully from my lungs and through my nostrils very forcefully. With that, what happens is I'm trying to exhale as much as possible. And when I relax my abdomen out after one stroke, because of the negative pressure, air actually enters in and I'll be able to breathe out again. So same effect as other asanas as I mentioned, Kapalbhati also can be a great tool to help with diabetes. This is a small demo of the same. One more important thing, as we discussed earlier, is stress, which is a major factor for our non-communicable chronic disorders today. Yoga Nidra has been demonstrated through several scientific studies, and also I have seen a lot of patients who practice Yoga Nidra, to what extent the stress hormones and stress what they perceive, and managing that becomes very easy and very comfortable. So there has been a study also done we have the slide which mentions about that study as well. A group of patients, about 60 or 70 of them, they were divided into two groups, and one group was assigned for Yoga Nidra for about 3 months of practice, and the other group wasn't. So when what happened was that the group which practiced Yoga Nidra had significant reduction in both fasting blood sugar and postprandial blood sugar. So that tells that how stress can have an effect in reducing our blood sugar if it is managed very well. And to give a simple example or a simple demo or explanation about Yoga Nidra, it has to be always done with an instruction. You will not be able to do without instructions because you may tend to sleep off, because the name itself mentions that Yoga Nidra, sleep, yogic sleep. In sleep, we are actually unconscious. We are not aware of ourselves. Yoga Nidra is a practice where we are in between being awake and sleeping, because you're aware of what you're doing, but get the effect of sleep, which is very rejuvenating, very welcoming and refreshing for us to take care of our life and the next day as well. So this will also help us to become very much aware. When the awareness increases, as Dr. Ish mentioned, we will be able to follow a routine. We should be able to take care of ourselves. Our awareness about our health increases. Thereby, we follow our doctor's orders, take medication, and also keep ourselves healthy. When we are healthy, our family is healthy. Family is healthy, the whole community is healthy. Thank you so much. I also offer a personalized yoga sessions for each individual. For any details, you can get in touch with Amitaji as well. We can work on that. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I look forward to teaching many of you about this. Thanks.